special greeting to all those 189 subscribers that I have at the moment. Those of you who are not subscribers, I'm not greeting you. This greeting is only for the 189 subscribers. But if you click the subscribe button, hello to you too. Welcome to the family. This is my channel. I know it's small, it's still growing, but I mean, that is the process. We're growing subscriber by subscriber. Shout out to all of you who have commented and told me things that I can improve. One of them is looking straight into the camera, and it's really difficult, but I'm going to try my best. Someone else told me my sound was not good. I've invested in sound, a brand new microphone. I'm yet to learn how to set it up, but at least I have invested. Guys, I mean, this is a one-man team. I am my own makeup artist, content creator, lights, what's it called? Lights technician, producer. So forgive or understand any glitches or any imperfections. We will get better with time. One day we're going to have a full production team behind this, and then you will be there saying, I saw this girl when she started from scratch and here she is, boom. So thank you so much. We grow day by day, we become better, and that is the whole point of this channel. Challenging ourselves, getting out of our comfort zones, making sure that we learn as much as we can from one another, and most and best of all, achieving and excelling in whatever we do. Today's video is going to be about my experience in Nairobi, particularly how to survive in Nairobi. Hey! So, if you want to know how to survive in Nairobi, maybe you've been thinking of settling over here, maybe you've been thinking of visiting over here, stay tuned and watch out for my top 10 ways of surviving in Nairobi. Tip number 1 is very simple, and that is forget everything, delete everything and anything you know about the city or particular country you're coming from if you're coming into Nairobi. Why? Because you need to be open-minded and willing to learn about the culture, the way things work around here. If you come with your previous mindsets, you are in for a rude shock. Sips drink. Now let me give you a brief background so you can understand why tip number 1 is very important. I am Ugandan, born and raised. Been in Uganda, let's say 21 years or thereabout. I only left Uganda to go to Mauritius for my bachelor's education degree, and I was in Mauritius for 3 years. So yours truly was in a landlocked country for about 20-something years. Lived in an island for 3 years, and then came smack boom straight into one of the most robust cities in Africa. My friends, I had to learn everything afresh. The ways of doing things, particularly for me in both Uganda and Mauritius, was different. Nairobi is a very fast-paced city. Mauritius, being an island, wasn't so fast-paced, and Uganda is a bit slower than, Nairobi. So I had to reset my system, reset my beliefs, reset the way I view people and the way I interact. And because I came with a mindset of, okay, I'm going to apply what I know or what I've learned from living in Uganda, from living in Mauritius over here, it took me a while to blend in. So that is why I'm telling you, from whatever city or country you're from, if you come into Nairobi, erase all data, all information, and be ready and willing to learn. The moment you're ready to learn, you will land on your feet and you will blend in and enjoy the city much faster and much better. Tip number 2. Please learn Swahili. For some reason in Uganda, Swahili is not really emphasized I remember in primary school, we were given an option between two languages, French and Swahili. So in my head, when I was choosing, I was like, okay, I don't see myself living in Kenya or Tanzania. Why not learn French, the more exotic and international language? Little did I know that years down the road, I would need that Swahili desperately. And that was the case when I came to Nairobi. See, the culture here is Swahili is the most used language in social contexts. And unluckily for me, I was here on contract, so I would interact a lot with corporates who spoke English. So when you are in a work setting or when you're in an official setting, of course they'll speak English, your interactions will be flawless. But if you really want to make friends, if you really want to make connections, then it's very important that you learn Swahili. Why? If you go to an event, if you go to like a housewarming or a house party, all the inside jokes will be in Swahili. If you're scrolling through social media or watching the news, there are going to be those jokes, those quotes, those insinuations that are in Swahili, and the joke is just funnier in Swahili. The moment someone translates the joke, it just ceases to be funny and you don't get the whole context. I can give you an example. There's this whole saying going around of a gentleman who said, "Ulisikia wapi?" So it's like a joke going around, and in social context it's used in different variations. So if you are there and you have no idea how to speak Swahili, the joke will just fly over your head. Then also, the moment you're buying anything in Nairobi, cut the price by 3 times. They will start from almost 3 times double the price, especially if they hear you using English or if they realize your accent is not from around here. The best way to counter this is to be a local, especially if you are dark skinned as I am. Fortunately or unfortunately, many people said I look Kenyan. So that worked in my favor at some point and also not in my favor in other points. That's a story for another day. So whenever I would go, or whenever I would go to an office, or whenever I would go to buy something from the market, like the first or natural setting was the person would speak to me in Swahili. Now there's a bit like, oh, I don't speak Swahili. So they would be like, okay, who's this spoiled Kenyan girl who thinks she's too good to speak Swahili? And by the time I get to explain to everyone that, okay, I'm not Kenyan, I'm Ugandan, and Ugandans don't speak Swahili, of which some people would still say, Ugandans speak Swahili, I know a Ugandan who speaks Swahili. And in my head I'm like, okay, so here you are, most of them actually have never even been to Uganda. You're arguing with someone who's been in the country almost their entire life that Ugandans speak Swahili. FYI, Ugandans don't speak Swahili. The Ugandans that speak Swahili, from how we grew up, either you work for the army, or you live at the border, or you have relatives in Kenya, or you have Kenyan, or relatives in Tanzania, or you learn Swahili in school, or this is the least flattering option, you're a thief. I have no idea where that conception came from, but that is how Ugandans view Swahili speaker. Actually, if you are in the city of Kampala and you speak Swahili, then people will know you're most likely not from around. Now I've digressed to Kampala. Back to Nairobi. So friends, learn Swahili. It's the fastest way you're going to be able to get around, especially in matatus. It's the easiest way you're going to be able to negotiate goods at really good prices. And 3, it's going to be a fantastic way for you to blend in and make new friends in social circles, so you don't miss out on the inside jokes and the sayings that are going around. So learn Swahili. It's going to be your best bet into blending into the city very well. Tip number 3. This tip is really, really important because I feel like for every new person that comes into Nairobi, especially if you've stayed long enough, 1, you've either been conned or attempted to be conned. There's a reason why a nickname for Nairobi is Nairobi. What? This city is a jungle, survival of the fittest. People are looking for ways to survive. So if you're not thinking on your feet, trust you me, you're going to find yourself losing money or losing something of value, because Kenyans are very intelligent people. You need to be really, really, really cautious. Video for another day, I'll tell you how yours truly was conned in Nairobi City. One thing you need to be aware of is not everyone can have your best interest at heart. To be honest, Nairobi is a very tough city to live in. The cost of living is relatively high compared to most African cities. So people are doing whatever they can to survive. You may get people calling you, claiming that, they sent you MPESA. If you're walking in CBD and you're minding your business, someone will tell you you've dropped an envelope, and then maybe the envelope has drugs or something like that. Like, there are just so many ways, like there are myriad of ways you could be conned. So just be extremely, extremely cautious with the people you talk to, the places you go, and just be careful, because it could happen to you any day, anytime. And even if you think you know all the ways you could be conned, people are out there inventing newer ways of how to con people. So just be really extremely cautious, and make sure that you are always alert in every situation, or you're always alert wherever you go, especially if you're going to be using public transport, and especially if you're going to be walking about the city if you are still new. If you're going to be in places, of course, the suburbs, and you're going to be using cabs or apps like Uber and Taxify, then I would say you relatively don't have much to worry about. But if you want to mingle with the people, with the citizens, and you're going to go to less suburban places, then I would advise you take extreme precaution. Tip number 4 is go out of your way to make meaningful friendships. My personal opinion is that Kenyans are not very friendly people, not compared to the countries that I've been to. A Kenyan will not go out of their way to seek your friendship. My friend, people are busy looking for money and, for ways of surviving. So no one has time to look for you and, be intentional about making friendships or, that sort of thing. So you need to be the one to reach out, probably identify the kind of people you want to be friends with, and be intentional. When I first came, I thought Kenyans were really cold, but I realized it's not their wanting, it's just the environment. Nairobi is a very fast-paced city. I'm sure I already mentioned that. So everyone is more or less in their own head. So even if you go to, let's say, a setting where there are people who know each other, and you walk out to a random person, it's going to be like 2 out of 5 chances the person will talk to you back, be friendly, and be committed to being your friend. Most of the other times, people will just be like, okay, why is this person reaching out to me? Especially if you're complete strangers, and let's say it's not like an intimate party, let's say it's a club, for example, and you just walk up to a random Kenyan and be like, hi, how are you? I would like to be your friend. The way they look at you, you'll come tell me. But when you get to understand that it's not their liking, it's just that, like I told you from my last tip, everyone is just trying to be cautious. Everyone is just trying to look out for themselves and make sure that the people who surround them have the best intentions at heart. So don't take it personally. It may take you time to make friends, or for some people it may not, but just take that with stride. Don't mind, be intentional about making friends, because these friends are going to make life easier for you. 1, if you don't speak Swahili, it's going to be easier for you to learn the language. 2, there'll be the friends that are going to show you around, tell you which places you should go to, which places are best to leave or not to leave, what are the best places to get good bargains. So it's really important to not stay in your own cocoon and meet as many people as possible who can teach you valuable information about living and thriving in the city. Tip number 5 is that be careful, very careful actually, when you're choosing a place to stay. This is especially for those who are planning to stay in the city on a long-term basis. Why? Agents can be very convincing and conniving. So you need to do thorough research about the area you're going to stay. One, does it have constant water? Two, is the area safe? Have there been reports of robberies and the likes? Three, especially if you're not driving, does the place have easy access to matatus or cabs? Four, you also need to know if there are any extra charges to the house that you're renting. Sometimes you're told a certain rate, and the moment you begin living in the place, other charges just pop out of nowhere. So make sure you do extremely thorough research. Also, in regards to the traffic situation. For example, I know Rongai, a place called Rongai, has really good affordable houses for rent, but the traffic is crazy. So depending on the type of work or where you're working, if you don't mind traffic, you can stay in particular places. But if you're someone probably going to CBD, that's the Central Business District, and you need a place where you can get to work faster, then it's probably better you choose an area where there's little on traffic. Tip number 6 is it's easier to cook from home. As I had already mentioned, Nairobi is a very costly city to live in, and as a first timer, you may want to eat out often, but with time, depending on how much you earn, that would really eat into your pocket. And personally, when I first came, I found the culinary experience to be very different. The most common food that is eaten is ugali. And I'm not sure whether it's a culture or whether it's a preference. Most Kenyans usually have their ugali with vegetables, either sukuma wiki or spinach. They just fry it very well. Some have it with fried eggs. And I come from, like, food has to have a stew, but apparently Kenyans are not big on stews and sauces. Actually, if you put like a lot of sauce in your stew, they call it watery. They prefer the stews to be thick. So if you want to take your time to get used to the culinary experience, I would advise you first get used to cooking for yourself at home, save costs, then slowly but surely you'll ease into the Kenyan culinary experience. Right now, as I speak, I have no issues with eating ugali. It's not my most preferred meal, but it's way better than when I first came. When I first came and they would serve ugali and nyama choma and salt and probably soup in a cup, I found that really different. But now I'm more or less used to it, and I just basically go with the flow. So if you're really picky with food, make sure you can bring some maybe food ingredients that you won't find in Nairobi over. Cook your own meals to begin with for the first couple of months. Then, as soon as you ease into the Kenyan culinary experience, then you can switch. Of course, you need to learn the places where you can get cheaper food options. But in case budget is not an issue, high-end restaurants and ordering in is your cup of tea. Tip number 7. Now, this is a personal tip for me that has worked for me, and I would not want to impose it on anyone. And that is, I always use mobile money, or they call it MPESA, for all my transactions. One, it's much safer because let's say you are traveling and using public transport, or maybe you're walking the city and someone snatches your bag and there were words of notes in there. I find that M-Pesa is safer because, one, the chances of someone hacking your PIN are very, very minimal. Two, you get to track your transactions and get to see how much you've spent over a particular period so that you can budget better. And then four, it is much harder for anyone to steal your money or to be conned. And even if, let's say, you're in a situation where you're conned and you pay the person using mobile money, then at least you have a chance of tracking them down, because Safaricom, that's a mobile provider here in Kenya, has a very diligent way of tracking people down. Personally, the time I was conned, the thing that helped me track down the person was because I did not have cash on me. It's my system, I always use M-Pesa. So I paid the person by M-Pesa, and luckily enough, they used the registered line. So we're able to track the person down, and I was able to get my money refunded. So for first timers and people who are new in Nairobi, some may mind the costs, but I feel personally the costs are worth it, especially if you're always guaranteed that your money is going to be safe. So that's a personal tip that has worked for me, using M-Pesa for all my transactions. Like literally, I never or I rarely have cash on me. Everything is M-Pesa, from grocery shopping to supermarket shopping. It helps me track my transactions, and it helps me stay secure in case I am being conned and I send the money and we're able to track down whoever the money was sent to. Tip number 8. Nairobi is a very beautiful city, so you wouldn't want to stay in the city and not take the opportunity to visit as many places as possible. My advice would be to join as many Facebook pages of travel companies and look out for special offers. When I first came to Nairobi, there were companies giving a lot of offers for hiking trips, road trips. I remember my first trip ever was to Ngarindare Forest, and it was extremely lovely. Because the city can be quite fast paced and daunting, those road trips over the weekend and nature experiences will help you see another side of Kenya, and will help you realize that Kenya is much, much, much bigger than Nairobi. So look out for events, opportunities, activities that you can do outside Nairobi or even within Nairobi, but places you probably would not normally go to. And that will make your experience even more exciting. Some examples of places you can visit are the Giraffe Center, the Animal Orphanage, there is Tedmark Gardens, there is Nairobi National Park itself, because Nairobi is the only city with a national park. And so many other places. There's also Karura Forest. You can go there and have like a bike ride or just walk and enjoy, the feeling of being surrounded by trees, birds, and that whole, scenario. So there's so many wonderful places you can visit. Make sure you make it a point to look out for good deals, good packages, and then every weekend you can visit a place or two depending on your preference. Tip number 9. Especially if you are a foreigner, make sure you always have your documents in order. Make sure your visa is up to date. Make sure if you lose your ID, you get a replacement. Make sure if you buy any electronics, you get a receipt. Make sure you always have evidence for anything you purchase, because in case anything goes wrong, then it is easy for you to always track wherever you purchase the item from. Also, this will help you in case you run into the cops, in case of any scenario, and you have your documents in order. It will be much easier for you to get out of so many situations. So make sure you have all your documents in order, and you keep any evidence of any purchase made or any transaction or just anything. Make sure you have a paper trail, actually. That's the most perfect word. Any transaction you do, or basically anything you feel can go wrong, make sure you have paper evidence, so that in case anything goes haywire, you can always have a way of track how and what you spent. Tip number 10. Enjoy the city. Nairobi is an extremely beautiful city with beautiful people, beautiful weather, and well, the weather is cold and it's not really hot, just the way I personally prefer. So enjoy yourself, enjoy the experience. Don't shut yourself out from, the city or meeting as many people as possible. Enjoy the city, enjoy the experience, and it's going to take time, but the moment the city grows onto you, trust you me, you're going to love it, because everything here is so tranquil and beautiful. In my opinion, I love the way the roads are really well manicured. I love the way the hospitals are really professional, and basically the ambience of the city. If you've traveled to a couple of African cities, you would understand what I am talking about. Then also, I love the fact that the city is fast paced and it keeps you thinking on your feet. That is not an experience you get in most African cities. So that is the very last tip. Enjoy your stay in Nairobi, make the most out of it, and give this video a thumbs up if you have liked the tips I've shared, and if you have any other tips you feel that I have left out with regards to living and surviving in Nairobi, please do share them below in the comment section and let us learn from one another. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and I hope to see you in my next video. Cheers.